the front. Bismillah. So inshallah, I'm just going to take a few moments in delivering the English piece of the khutbah today. And as you will see from the slide shortly, the subject I've headed up is called Farewell Ramadan. Now that's not me giving you a fatwa that this is the final Friday of Ramadan, but it may be. And as with many things, when you come to a conclusion of something, you should be reflecting over what's happened over that period. So when the year comes to an end, you think about how that year's gone, and you also plan for the year ahead. And for Ramadan, it's no different. We should be thinking about how has this Ramadan gone, and thinking about or planning for the year ahead. And the key thing that should come to your mind, and I speak to everyone here who's in the congregation, and then specifically those who are sitting the itikaf, but one of the key things that the scholars say, that you should look at the state of your iman year on year. So, and they say that if your iman has not changed from one year to the other, so even if you think you have good iman, you pray, you do your salah, etc., if it has not changed, then they go, you are in, and this is the words they say, you are in crisis. So if your iman is not fluctuating, i.e. it is not increasing, then according to the scholars, then we are in crisis. Because the concept of iman is that it's something that should be increasing year on year. And when I say increasing, we accept that iman goes a bit up and a bit down, but it still should be going in an upward trajectory. That's the way it should be going. And if it's not, we should be asking ourselves why. And the other thing that we should be thinking about is that now that we've come to the end of Ramadan, if we haven't been thinking about how this Ramadan's been, how the year's going ahead, and if instead what we're thinking about is, oh, I can't wait till Ramadan's over, I've got this to do, I'm going to catch up with doing this, etc., then again we need to really think to ourselves and say, then what's the purpose of Ramadan? I mean, if we're living in a way that we think we can just come through each Ramadan and just think we accumulate good deeds, but then we're really strong, like we have an iman boost, which I'll come back to again, and then we hit Shawwal and we get through the first week of Shawwal, second, third, and by the time we come to the end of Shawwal, it's like we never went through Ramadan again. We're praying like we used to pray before. We're missing our salahs like we used to miss our salahs before. Nothing has really changed in our life. And then we need to ask ourselves, do we think that we can get away our entire life in that type of way? Because what happens that if you don't begin to rectify yourself, if you're not truly thinking about, actually, is my iman changing? It has ramifications. And one of the stories that we're told is of, in the days of old, there used to be a mu'adhin of a mosque. And in those days, the mosque didn't have walls, they just had like a boundary. And this was someone that used to pray do the adhan for the salah regularly. When it came to his death, just before he was passing away, he asked his family were around him, people around him, and he asked for them to bring him the Quran. They were like, mashallah, he spent his whole life doing the adhan. They asked him for the Quran. Has he picked up the Quran, the book of Allah, he threw it against the wall, and he says, I reject it and everything that's in it, and he passed away. This is someone that used to be in the mosque on a daily basis doing the adhan. Now the family were distraught. What happened? This is someone we thought was person of Allah and so forth. They buried him, etc. And afterwards they went and consulted a person of Allah, a friend of Allah, and they asked him. And they gave them insight. They go, the issue that he had with this person was that every time he would do the adhan, he would not be lowering his gaze. That he would be looking at the women as they would walk past. Because in those days they didn't have a boundary for the mosque. One thing that he had, an issue that he had not rectified in his entire life, became his doom when it came to passing away. So if each of us, we're thinking that, oh, alhamdulillah, yes, inshallah, like last night may have been Laylatul Qadr, it might be another night. But we have that faith if we stood before Allah and we ask Allah to wipe away our sins. But remember, this isn't a game that we're playing with Allah. That we don't think that, Ya Allah, you've cleared everything for us now, and then we can go back to how we were before. There has to be something, there has to be some sort of change. And this is where the interesting piece comes, is that how do you bring about change? Because I could tell each of you, put your hands up here, who thought, or does anyone think that mu'adhin that was doing the adhan, did he think it was right to look at women? He knew. When someone is abusing their wife, for example, or arguing with their parents, or watching stuff on their phone, do they know that's right? They know it's wrong, don't they? Seldom, hardly ever will you come across anything in Islam where you genuinely don't know what is right and what is wrong. You always know that. So why is it that we go back and back to the same vices, to the same sins, and why do we have the same salah that we had before? Now, one of the things, and it comes to Iman, and this is a word that I used before. People go through Ramadan to get an Iman boost. What do we get? An Iman boost. Because we're with Allah a bit more. Everyone around us is worshipping Allah. Allah has made it easy for us in Ramadan as well to remember Him, to remember the Prophet ﷺ. But how do we sustain this throughout? And something that occurs to me is the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. He came across one of his companions one day. It may have been Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, I can't recall, but it was one of his companions. The Prophet ﷺ, and to my nearest recollection, he came up to his companion and he saw him. He goes, Ya Hudayfa, or whoever it was, how do you find yourself today? And he goes, Ya Rasulullah. He goes, I see the arsh of Allah before me. I see that which is to the right of me and that which is to the left of me. I smell the fragrance of heaven and I feel the heat of hell. This is a companion saying this to who? To the Prophet ﷺ. He is in a waking state. And the response to the Prophet ﷺ is this. The Prophet ﷺ says, now that you have tasted this, do not let it go. What is so interesting about this, he's not talking, Ya Rasulullah, I had a dream. Ya Rasulullah, I saw. He's saying, I see the arsh of Allah before me. I see that which is to the right and that which is to the left. I smell the fragrance of heaven and I feel the heat of hell. That, and the Prophet's response is, now that you've tasted the truth, do not let this go. That is a type of Iman that these people had. They had the experience Islam, they saw Islam for what it was, directly. And this is what's going to, it ties in to just the wider aim of what we're doing at this itikaf. And the beauty of having Iman, because like I said, each and every single one of us knows what's right and knows what's wrong. We don't need a discourse in saying these are the sins and these are good deeds. We all know that, but the lack that we have is, or the issues that we have, is having that Iman boost to get us through. And they say of Imam Ali radiallahu anhu, that when he used to pray in Salah, now this is when people talk about different levels of khushu'. This is the khushu' of Imam Ali radiallahu anhu. They had the Battle of Haybar. They had just won the Battle of Haybar. Imam Ali radiallahu anhu had an arrow in his leg. No one could take it out without him responding aggressively. So they thought, how are we going to get this arrow out? Because we can't hold him down. Each time we tried to take it out, it hurts. So how do we fight Imam Ali radiallahu anhu to take this out? And then someone said, go into Salah. And then all he did was, he stood up, he did his 2 nawafil, and he went into Salah and they pulled out the arrow. He didn't even realise. Why? Because he's somewhere else, isn't he? This is the reason why when the Prophet ﷺ used to say to Bilal, Ya Bilal, do the azan, because I need coolness to my eyes. Because these are the realities of their Salah. This is why Imam Ali, what was one of his famous statements? If I could see, if the window of heaven was open for me right now, and the window of hell was open for me right now, my Iman wouldn't fluctuate. Why? Because they saw the window of heaven. They saw the window of hell. So for these people, this was their daily reality. For our blessed mother, Fatima Zahra radiallahu anha, for her, when she used to stand before Allah to pray, she would blush and go red. That is khushu'. Knowing that she's going to engage in this salah, have this interaction. That was a level of their salah. We will. I mentioned in the introduction earlier that Sheikh Imam Ghazali's fiqh position was on salah, i.e. that if from the opening takbir to the closing salam, if you don't have a khushu' of Allah in just one moment, he will say your salah is not accepted. We were also blessed when Sheikh Ahmed told us that the teacher Imam Abu Hanifa had a similar position on your fast. That if you did not complete a spiritual fast, i.e. if you committed a sin, like you and I are sitting here and we're fasting, if any of us done ghibah, backbited anyone, whether someone here or whether of someone at home, our fast would not be accepted for that day and we would have to do a qadha. For these imams, for these great luminaries of our time, to have these positions means that people around them had achieved that station. So therefore, and the blessing that we have in this faith is that nothing, Allah has not left anything for us, no tools for us not to achieve this same station, inshallah. And so on that point, inshallah, is the point that I really want to kind of bring this entire point to and culminate, is that This Iman boost that I'm speaking about, this thing that we get for Ramadan, but it just gets us through each day, maybe a week of Shawwal, that we still stay steadfast, and then we drop like a lead balloon. That's it. How do we sustain this Iman? How do we get this Iman boost? And it's literally in what these scholars have taught us, that what you want to do is you want to experience Islam. You want to have this Ainul Yaqeen that they speak about. And now I turn to everyone that's in this congregation, but especially those who have come, who are on the Itikaf retreat, and those who are going to be experiencing or being with us for the next few days. And I'm just going to pick a few points. So if you just look to a moment at the slides, we'll be teaching you about the ascension. We'll be talking about how you yourself can take that spiritual journey up to the thrones, up to the Arsh of Allah. So that, and that moment when that companion said, Prophet, that I see the Arsh of Allah, why should that be denied us? Are we not of the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ? I mentioned in my introduction, and this is one of the other things, we'll be doing a experience, a muraqabah, where you can have the huzuri or the presence of the Prophet ﷺ. And I mentioned in my introduction on Wednesday that I gave two examples, and the reason why I gave two non-Muslim examples. One I gave was of Malcolm X, and one of another prisoner, that they got to see the ziyarah of the Prophet ﷺ, then what of us? What of those of us who say, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah? If we're people that testify this, why will it be denied us? And then one of the other things that we'll teach you in this retreat, and some of you experience it, is the muraqabah dua. The kernel of worship, they say, that of every worship there's an absolute spirit, the pinnacle worship, which is the dua, and then of the dua, there's a pinnacle, a muraqabah within it, which you're taught. So that when they say that dua is a weapon of a believer, you will now know why. How you turn to Allah and ask for that. And then to culminate with it all, you're taught that spiritual salah. One of the statements of Imam Ghazali is that when you're in the tashahhud position, that you should be, when you're reciting the Rood and Tashahhud, that you're imagining that that Prophet ﷺ was there having that engagement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has a retreat in this congregation, that's exactly what you'll be taught. You'll be taught the method of how to have that khushu in your prayer. So that inshallah, when you leave this itikaf, not only will you have a Iman boost, but also you should have the tools that will allow you to keep this Iman, this Ainul Yaqeen, throughout the year, so that you genuinely, from your own perspective, you can see that, Ya Allah, and this is where the impact will really happen, is that when you think about engaging a sin, at the moment for us we think about, yes, we believe there's Allah, we believe in heaven, we believe in hell, but there's an entire different concept when you see, like that companion saw the Arsh of Allah, when you see what's in paradise and you feel the heat of hell. That is effectively what we call a game changer. And how will that impact on your life? Now think about this practically, because that's what we like. How will it impact on your life and my life? Well, simple. If you're seeing what Allah has in store for you in the next life, if you're seeing that Allah has palaces for you, just for your good deeds and for refraining from sin, then that problem that you have at work, or the fact that I can't find a job, I'm getting stressed with exams, I might as well just go make some money doing this, that falls away. When you're tempted at night, if you've got your phone on, should I check that dodgy internet site or on my phone or not? When you know what Allah is offering you in the hereafter, you think, I can do a bit of sabr for what I'm going to get in the hereafter. If the thing that stops you when the time of salah enters, and you're thinking, it's Isha, I've got fard to do, I've got sunnah to do, and all of that stuff starts bringing you down. But if what you're going to see in your salah is going to be if you're going to engage with Allah and His Messenger, that is what's going to change. That's the game changer. So in terms of your knowledge of what is right and wrong, that won't change. You all know what's right, you know what's wrong. Just like when I said at the beginning, that Mu'adhin that was staring at those women, he knew what was right or what was wrong. But what will be different now is you will now know, your Imam will know that what there is in the hereafter. Just like if he had this yaqeen, he would have seen what the punishment would have been had he continued to commit those sins. So inshallah, for those who aren't registered in the retreat, I think it's something that you can follow. Those who are registered, all those who have just arrived, really take, this could be our last Jummah. I'm not issuing a fatwa, it could be, it may not be, but we are definitely in the final week of Ramadan. Our final week effectively of this year, and we have a real opportunity here to not only to really acquire the tools that can allow us to change our entire direction in life. Inshallah. So inshallah, on that I conclude. I think we're going to do perform sunnah, and then there'll be the Arabic khutbah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.